Astounded. If you are astounded, you are very surprised.
I was astounded that Monica won the art competition.
Attribute. An attribute is a characteristic of a person or thing.
He isn't very clever, but he does have some other positive attributes.
Bilingual. If someone is bilingual, then they can speak 2 languages.
Since you already know English, after learning French, you'll be bilingual.
Clone. A clone is an identical copy of a living creature.
Scientists recently made a clone of a sheep.
Colloquial. Colloquial describes informal words that are more suitable for speech than writing.
I find it difficult to understand people if they use colloquial language.
Cosmetics. Cosmetics are substances that make the face and skin more beautiful.
Girls often look nicer when they don't use so many cosmetics.
Dash. To dash means to run or move quickly.
Helen dashed up the stairs so she wouldn't be late for her appointment.
Disgust. Disgust is a feeling of distaste and anger caused by something rude or unpleasant.
He felt disgust toward his date because she had such terrible eating habits.
Fluorescent. If something is fluorescent, it is such a bright color that it seems to give off light.
She highlighted the key words in the document with a fluorescent yellow pen.
Furious. If you are furious, you are extremely angry.
My father was furious when he read my bad school report.
Gulf. A gulf is a gap between people who do not understand each other.
There has been a gulf between James and Tony since their parents died.
Humanities. Humanities are subjects which analyze human ideas, such as history and literature.
Jennifer has always been more interested in humanities than science.
Knot. A knot is made when you tie the ends of rope or cord together.
He tied a knot in his shoelaces so they wouldn't come off during the race.
Linguist. A linguist is someone who studies languages.
Tony is a good linguist and speaks 4 different languages.
Participant. A participant is someone who joins in a social event or competition.
There were thousands of participants in this year's marathon.
Plausible. If something is plausible, it is reasonable or possible.
It is plausible that Jack isn't here today because he is sick.
Ritual. A ritual is a formal custom that people do regularly.
Ken was very interested to learn about the religious rituals of the natives.
Sibling. A sibling is a brother or sister.
Jane has 2 siblings, an older brother and a younger sister.
Skinny. If someone is skinny, they are extremely thin.
Polly is very skinny. I think she needs to eat more.
Vague. If something is vague, it is not clear, and it gives very few details.
I asked him about his mother's health, but he was very vague about it.
Acid. An acid is a chemical that can burn or dissolve other substances.
In chemistry class, we mixed two acids together and watched the reaction.
Administration. An administration is the group of people who manage a company or organization.
She hoped she could be promoted to a job in the administration.
Administrative. Administrative describes anything related to managing a company or organization.
I work as an administrative assistant to the owner of the company.
Biotechnology. Biotechnology is the use of living parts, such as cells, in industry and technology.
Researchers at the biotechnology company use bacteria to make medicine.
Cholesterol. Cholesterol is a substance in fat, tissues, and blood of all animals.
When people have too much cholesterol, they are at a high risk for heart problems.
Coalition. A coalition is a group of people or organizations working for a common purpose.
The companies formed a coalition to make trade less expensive.
Deceptive. When something is deceptive, it encourages one to believe something that is false.
The scary-looking man's appearance is deceptive, but he is actually very nice.
Diabetes. Diabetes is a medical condition where a person has too much sugar in their blood.
Overweight people are more likely to suffer from diabetes than slimmer ones.
Eliminate. To eliminate something that is unwanted means to completely remove it.
Wearing a seatbelt eliminates some of the dangers of driving a car.
Erosion. Erosion is the destruction of rock or soil due to flowing water or weather.
Canyons are formed because rivers of fast-moving water caused erosion.
Ethics. Ethics are moral beliefs or rules about right or wrong.
The act of stealing certainly doesn't go against some people's ethics.
Explicit. If something is explicit, it is very clear, open, and truthful.
The man gave a very explicit account of the car accident.
Framework. A framework is a set of rules or ideas that people use to solve problems.
His ideas fit into the framework of a successful business plan.
Manufacture. To manufacture something means to make it in a factory.
My father's company manufactures steel building materials.
Mechanism. A mechanism is a part of a machine that performs a certain function.
I can't open my car door because the locking mechanism is broke.
Minimize. To minimize means to reduce something to the lowest possible level.
I checked my homework twice to minimize errors I might have made.
Nectar. Nectar is a sweet liquid produced by flowers that bees and other insects collect.
Bees use nectar to make their honey.
Notion. A notion is an idea or belief about something.
I have a notion that this route would get us to the beach.
Prone. When things are prone to some bad thing, they are likely affected by it.
Some people are more prone to catching colds than others.
Straightforward. When something is straightforward, it is good because it is easy to understand.
The teacher's grading system was straightforward and fair.
Astronomical. If something is astronomical, then it is extremely large.
It's an astronomical distance between the Milky Way galaxy and the nearest galaxy.
Atom. An atom is the smallest unit of a substance.
A molecule consists of a combination of two or more atoms.
Breadth. Breadth is the distance from one side to the other side of something.
The breadth of the northern wall of the house is 20 meters.
Circumference. A circumference is the distance completely around a circular object.
The circumference of the Earth is obviously much larger than a baseball's.
Comet. A comet is an object in space made of ice and rock with a tail of glowing dust.
Comets take many decades to complete an orbit around a star.
Crater. A crater is a large hole in a planet's or moon's surface.
They could clearly see the big crater on the moon through the telescope.
Crescent. A crescent is the curved shape lit on the moon's face during its early and late stages.
10 days ago, the entire moon was bright, but now only a small crescent is shining.
Debris. Debris is the small pieces scattered from something wrecked or destroyed.
The debris from the cube scattered on the floor.
Despair. Despair is the complete loss of hope.
After the other company won the account, our salespeople were filled with despair.
Embed. To embed something means to place it firmly within a surrounding thing.
The logger embedded the axe into the wood after chopping several logs.
Fragment. A fragment is a small part of something.
After the light broke, there were fragments of glass to clean up.
Galaxy. A galaxy is any extremely large collection of star systems.
Our solar system is located in the outer area of our galaxy.
Gigantic. If something is gigantic, then it is extremely large.
Some dinosaurs were so gigantic that they were the size of buildings.
Gloom. Gloom is a state of being almost completely dark.
In the gloom of the morning, it was difficult to see the boat on the lake.
Radiate. To radiate means to send out energy or heat.
The heat from the fireplace radiated throughout the room.
Roam. To roam means to move around without a plan or purpose.
All day the cows roamed around the field eating grass.
Solitary. If something is solitary, then it is lonely or the only one.
The only thing in the room was a solitary chair.
Spectrum. The spectrum is the full range of color, ranging from red to violet.
You can see the entire spectrum in a rainbow.
Sphere. A sphere is a three-dimensional round shape, like a ball.
The balloons were inflated into a variety of colorful spheres.
Status. Status is the position of something or someone in relation to others.
She had achieved the status of being the smartest girl in the class.
Bankrupt. If someone is bankrupt, then they are unable to pay their debts.
The store had few customers and soon went bankrupt.
Conform. To conform to rules or laws is to obey them.
The new student had to conform to the school's dress code.
Employ. To employ someone means to give work to them.
The bookstore employed 2 full-time clerks.
Expel. To expel someone means to force them to leave a place.
Since he would not follow the rules, the principal had to expel the student.
Extension. An extension is a part added to something to give it more time or space.
My parents decided to add an extension to our house for the new baby.
Forthcoming. If something is forthcoming, then it is about to happen in the future.
Some economists predicted that the forthcoming world economy would be severe.
Furnish. To furnish means to put furniture in a house or room.
Most homes are furnished with tables, chairs, and beds.
Hygiene. Hygiene is the conditions or methods needed for health and cleanliness.
People who brush their teeth at least twice a day are practicing good hygiene.
Hygienic. If something is hygienic, then it is clean and unlikely to cause disease.
My sister works very hard to keep her entire home as hygienic as possible.
Landlord. A landlord is a man who rents property to a person.
The landlord collected everyone's rent money on the first day of every month.
Lease. To lease means to rent property, usually an apartment or land.
When the family first leased the apartment, the rent was very low.
Mandatory. If something is mandatory, then it is required by law.
It's mandatory that everyone be at least 16 to drive a car in the U.S.
Mend. To mend something means to fix it when it is broken or damaged.
Mother mended the rip in my pants with a piece of cloth.
Mortgage. A mortgage is a loan for property, especially homes and businesses.
When they bought their new home, the married couple had to sign a mortgage.
Personnel. Personnel are employees in a business.
When business increased, we had to hire more personnel.
Plumbing. Plumbing is the system of pipes used in a home to supply water.
When the plumbing stopped working, no one was allowed to use the toilets.
Tenant. A tenant is a person who rents property from a landlord.
The new tenants moved into the house across the street.
Trendy. If something is trendy, then it is very popular and new.
Carlo bought a trendy new car.
Utility. A utility is a business that supplies services such as water or electricity.
If you don't pay the utilities, you may have your electricity turned off.
Whereby. Whereby means by which or through which.
The mayor had a new bridge built whereby the citizens could cross the river.
Aesthetic. If something is aesthetic, then it is concerned with a love of beauty.
The dresses were noteworthy for their aesthetic design.
Arrogant. If someone is arrogant, they think that they are more important than others.
He is very arrogant. Even though he's not the boss, he tells everyone what to do.
Bias. A bias is a person's likelihood to like one thing more than another thing.
The mothers had a natural bias for their own child's picture.
Canyon. A canyon is a narrow valley with steep walls through which a river often flows.
The canyon was so deep that the ground inside was covered in shadow.
Creek. A creek is a stream or small river.
Only small fish lived in the shallow waters of the creek.
Drill. A drill is a tool with a point that spins in order to make a hole.
The carpenter used the drill to make several holes in the wood.
Executive. An executive is the top manager of a business.
After 20 years at the company, he finally became the executive.
Fatigue. Fatigue is a feeling of extreme tiredness.
After 3 days with little sleep, she was feeling a lot of fatigue.
Incline. An incline is a sharp rise in something, especially a hill or mountain.
This mountain has one of the steepest inclines in the world.
Nasty. If something is nasty, then it is not nice or pleasant.
The rotten apple left a nasty taste inside her mouth.
Perceive. To perceive something means to be aware of it.
He was talking loudly, so he did not perceive that the music had stopped.
Primate. A primate is a type of mammal that includes monkeys, apes, and humans.
Primates use their hands for such tasks as swinging from branches.
Primitive. If something is primitive, then it is simple, basic, and not very developed.
The computers of the 1980s are primitive compared to those of today's.
Stereotype. A stereotype is a general but often incorrect idea about a person or thing.
There's a stereotype that pigs are dirty animals, but they are rather clean.
Sticky. If something is sticky, then it is covered with a substance that things stick to.
Place the sticky part of the tape against the paper so it will cling to the wall.
Termite. A termite is an insect that lives in groups and feeds on wood.
The wood we found was full of termites.
Thereby. If something happens thereby an action, then it is the result of that action.
He didn't score a goal, thereby ending his chance at setting a record.
Trail. A trail is a path through a wild area.
A narrow trail cut through the field and over the hills.
Twig. A twig is a short and thin branch from a tree or bush.
They started the fire with a handful of dry twigs.
Welfare. Welfare is the health and happiness of a person or group.
Having plenty of clean water is necessary for the welfare of people.